Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, as-salatu was-salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Welcome everybody from around the world. This is the BAK show. My name is Bilal Abdul Kareem. And we are here with this program here in one of the blessed nights of Ramadan. And we're going to try to answer some of your questions, take some of your concerns about issues which are going on in the Muslim world. Now, we're going to be discussing a bunch of different topics here today, including the Yemenis. In the West, they're called Houthi rebels. I believe that they call them Houthi rebels so that they can belittle them into thinking that it's just a few guys that are out there, a very small band, and therefore it robs them of any type of legitimacy. But they prefer the name to be called Ansar Allah. You can choose the one that you think is most suitable. If they prefer to be called Ansar Allah, I don't mind to call them Ansar Allah. They are targeting ships which are going to and from Israel. And that also includes ships, including aircraft carriers, destroyers, or whatever the United States of America has put into their territorial waters, because they have been launching these attacks on these vessels in support of the brothers and sisters in Gaza. Now, now they said that once a deal is signed, that they would call off their attacks. A deal was signed back in January and the attacks stopped. But then Benjamin Netanyahu and his government decided that, well, you know what? There's really no need to stick to this agreement. And therefore, they have, for the past 16 or 17 days, they've cut off all aid, food, medical supplies from going into Gaza. The Ansar Allah warned them that they would resume their attacks in the Red Sea, particularly in the area of the Mandeb Strait, which is around 21 kilometers wide. So it's very, very narrow, and it's easy, particularly in this day of drone warfare, to launch attacks on ships coming and going. Now, a lot of people are asking the question, I mean, what's up? Why are the Yemenis doing this? The Yemenis, if you look at them, they're poor. They're not a rich country. They don't have a lot over there. What is the deal? Now, we're going to talk about that in a second, but I want to welcome people from around the world who may have just been joining us. My name is Bilal Abdul Kareem. This is the BAK show. If you've got questions, comments, or concerns, please do feel free to send them in, and we will be entertaining them. This is your show, and we're happy to have everybody here. Now, getting back to the question, why would they be helping them? The reality of the situation is that Yemen went through a man-made famine that was initiated by Saudi Arabia. And when Saudi led a coalition of countries that attacked Yemen, as part of their protection against Yemen falling into Iranian hands, or so it was stated at that time. But basically what they did is they created a man-made famine in Yemen. And you would see all of these children who were in hospitals, and they looked like skeletons. The fact that these are Muslim children, I don't think really played much of a role in what the way the Saudis were doing it. The United Arab Emirates, of course, was a part of it. The United States were offering air refueling services, and it started in 2015. But from what I see, the support from the Yemeni people for their assistance to the brothers and sisters in Gaza is huge in Yemen. And I believe it's because they understand what it's like to be under siege, to have no food, to have no medicine, and therefore they use that experience to do something positive. Now, a lot of people, or some people, would come back and say, but wait a minute, no, they're backed by Iran. No, they can't be doing this for any good reason. There has to be some evil involved in there. Well, you know what? You got to understand something else. Not everybody that is backed by a group is necessarily 100% under their control. After having said that, I'm going to just call it exactly what it is. They're doing more. They're doing more than Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, Emirates, Kuwait, Oman, and all of the rest of them. But not only are they doing more than those countries, which are rich gas and oil economy-based countries, but the planes which are taking off to bomb Yemen right now, they ran, last night it was 47 different locations were bombed in Yemen. The most likely air bases that they took off from is Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, and also a naval base in Bahrain. Now, in case you didn't notice, those are Muslim countries, those are Middle Eastern countries. The biggest military installation in the entire Middle East is where? It's in Qatar. Now, listen, guys, I am not a takfiri, and I'm not suggesting that the Qatari government are not Muslims and the Bahraini government are not Muslims. Why am I not suggesting that? Because I'm not a scholar, and I'm not going to get involved in issues and matters of takfir. That ain't my gig. But I will say one thing. You could understand why somebody could be inclined towards these ideas, because they're openly helping non-Muslims to kill Muslims. Now, again, these planes taking off from Qatar, who could defend that? Who could defend that? I can't defend it. I'm not even going to give it a shot. The Bahrainis are have already allowed the Israelis to use their seaport to import goods, so that goods can be shipped into Israel by way of a land corridor, as we may have mentioned in the past and last night. There's a land corridor that goes from Bahrain. It goes through Saudi Arabia, through Jordan, all the way into the port in the Israeli territories. So the point that I'm making here is that you have these so-called Muslim countries, and they are Muslim countries because they are predominantly Muslim, but these so-called Muslim leaders who are actually making it difficult to pressure the Israelis to stop their onslaught. And Allah knows best. And it's, it's really a sad situation, that we have here, wherein these Muslim countries are not even trying to do anything or offer any assistance against the onslaught of the Israelis. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Okay, let's take a look at something here. Yes, before we get started, I wanted to ask for you guys help with something and all. We have launched a campaign. This will just take a second here. We've launched a campaign here, and basically what we're doing, it's called Voices of Truth. Voices of Truth is a campaign wherein we are documenting the stories of people who were victims of the Assad regime and their terror. Those people who were imprisoned, tortured, families of those who were disappeared, and also some of the people who actually did some of the oppression. So we need to document these stories to make sure that history does not repeat itself. If you look at other countries, for example, if you look at Libya, most people have forgotten that Libya has an answer to Saydnaya, a prison that saw the deaths of thousands of Syrians, called Abu Salim. But yet, Muammar Gaddafi, in many circles today, his history and legacy is being whitewashed for certain reasons. But the point of the matter is that we cannot allow these people whose lives were decimated to go, to just go without telling their story, and to have to live with the fact that people have a short memory, particularly outside of Syria. And Allah knows best. So what do we want? We want your help. Visit our crowdfunding page at medina.com/voices of truth. It's flashed there, or it should be here on the screen. And it's called medina.com/voices of truth. So please visit our crowdfunding page. We would really, really be excited to have you and to please support us as best you possibly can. Now, let's see if there are any questions out here that we need to deal with. Let's take a look at what Adris Jad says. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brother Bilal Abdul Kareem. I love your analysis on Middle East. Do you think Houthi are a project by Iran and work with them? I think that, of course, it's not a secret that the Ansar Allah or the Houthis are Iranian-backed. There's no question about it. It would be a really, really good idea for Iran to have a proxy on the borders of Saudi Arabia, which is why they are backed by Iran. But I would also say is that, وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى. If it's possible to cooperate with those who are trying to help the brothers and sisters in Palestine, I think that that would be a good thing. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to give away all of your secrets, doesn't necessarily mean that you have to open the front door for them, because there are a lot of issues, particularly with being backed by Iran, that need to be addressed. After having said that, I do think that people from around the world should do all that they possibly can to help stop the genocide that's taking place in Gaza. And it couldn't have happened without the complicit behavior of news media organizations around the world. Just very briefly, I want to just put something on you. I think it was it was an interview by U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio just the other day. It's one of those Sunday morning talk shows in America, and I forgot what it was. I'll try to remember it. And he was asked about what was going on in Yemen, and he said that yes, we are bombing, and yes, President Trump has been very clear that he's not going to tolerate any disruption of the shipping lanes and so on and so forth. But one of the dishonest things that took place in the interview is that he said that the Houthis were essentially just a bunch of pirates, which is exactly what he said. He called them pirates. The interviewer didn't even push back on that. They didn't even bring up what their motivation was to actually take on such a huge superpower like America and the Israelis. They just accepted the fact that they're a bunch of pirates. I guess they wanted to steal washing machines and soap and stuff like that, as opposed to actually saying that they are clamping down on those shipping lanes only for vessels which are in support of and going to or fro Israel. Now, was that not relevant? Did you not think that that was important to bring that up? Of course it was important, but this genocide couldn't take place without their tacit assistance, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Okay, next up, we've got Sultan Suleiman, who says, Brother Bilal, what exactly is your problem with HTS? Well, I'm going to put it to you like this. My issues with HTS have been and continue to be as follows. One, I'm against torture. I'm not for torturing people. I'm not. And that practice has been going on and it still is going on. And I can't pretend that it's not. People who torture Muslims, I've got a major problem with that. It didn't start with my incarceration back in 2020. I have a history of documenting a torture and oppression that goes back to before the war even started, or before the Arab Spring even started, going back to 2009. And it didn't even start then, but it was only documented at that time. So some people might say, oh, well, Bilal's got a personal beef with HTS. No, I've got a personal beef with anybody who engages in torture or indefinite detention or not allowing the Sharia of Islam to be the judge between the different parties, including the government. Those are my three issues. One, no torture. Two, no indefinite detention. Three, the Sharia should be the judge in the affairs between the people and the government, between the people and the people, and the people and how they deal with even external entities. Those are my issues with HTS. I'm not going to sit here and say that they haven't done any good and there's no good in these people or anything like that. No, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to tell you that. But what I am going to say is that those are three major issues that I have, and now you know. Sultan, you can comment on that if you like. I'm open to any criticism or ideas that you might want to bring forth, and we'll read it here. Adri Sajjad said, don't you think, brother, that Houthi, if they come to Sunni territory, will not slaughter Sunni Muslims in the Arab world? I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. Why would we speculate that? I mean, what would we achieve by speculating that? That we shouldn't work with people who are trying to alleviate the suffering of our brothers and sisters because they might kind of woulda, coulda, shoulda at some point might want to slaughter some Sunnis. I don't think that's the right thing to do. I really don't. Like I said, of course, whoever has the ability to help the people in Palestine should to some extent have some coordination, but also at the same time, I just don't think it's the right thing to do to say, okay, well, you know what? Because they might do something in the future and all, I'm not going to deal with them. Well, look, there are not a lot of players at the table. The Saudis are not at the table. They're not doing anything. They're just waiting for this whole thing to blow over so that they can get on with their new cities that they're building that's going to feature some chicks and booze and stuff like that. And these are by their own documents, by the way. These are not just my hallucinations. The Bahrainis are actually helping the Israelis along with the Emiratis. They help the Israelis. You've got the Jordanians and the Egyptians who have histories of like the Matador defense. So there are not a lot of people who are risking their necks to help the brothers and sisters in Palestine because they want to protect what they think are their own interests, but they're really not protecting their interests, but that's a story of another day. And Allah knows best. So yeah, man, I feel what you're saying, but I'm not going to go there. Adam Shakur says, Assalamu alaikum. Are the UAE actually involved in the Sudanese genocide? Yes, they are heavily backed, the RSF, by the United Arab Emirates. Much of the gold which is smuggled out of Sudan goes directly to the United Arab Emirates. The Sudanese government filed a complaint with the International Court of Justice just around 2 weeks ago, implicating the United Arab Emirates as a main financial and military backer of Hemeti, if he's still alive, and his RSF, which is just a rebranding of the Janjaweed that committed the rapes and atrocities and murders and genocide in the Darfur region back in the early 2000s. So yes, brother, they are a part of it. And you always find that whenever there is any type of Islamic movement, any type of Islamic coalition, you will always seem to find that the Emiratis are there to scuttle it. Check it out for yourself. You can come back tomorrow, talk to me about it, but you almost invariably find that there is, at a bare minimum, political and financial cover from Abu Dhabi. And that's real. I used to live there. I know them people. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay. Muhammad Ismail says, Assalamu alaikum. Are the videos of HTS executing Alawite civis true? Yes and no. Not everybody who's present in those Sahel areas are all HTS. They're not. There are many different groups that are there. And to be honest with you, I cannot verify exactly which group that was. I'm just being real with you. I told you what my issues were with Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, but I'm not gonna charge them with something that I don't know. But I do know, because I'm in contact with the brothers that are there. But you have many different groups that are there. Most of the brothers that are there for good reasons, and they're doing good work. But they're knuckleheads that are out there, and they're doing things which are counter to the principles of this revolution, and they've hurt the revolution. And everything is attributed to the new government in Damascus. And I got to tell you, I don't think that that's fair. But sometimes in this day and age of the soundbite or the under 2 minutes news clip, nuances are just not, they just don't factor in. Okay, what? They're out there, they're fighting. They're not with Bashar al-Assad, they're not with the Alawites. Okay, they're with the new government. Okay, they're with the new government, but that's not necessarily HTS. And yes, they do have to clamp down on those people. Yes, because the new government bought them, they are responsible. Yes, I agree with all of that, but I'm just trying my best to answer your question. Okay. Do you feel the end of Israel is near? Not necessarily. No, not necessarily. I don't have any reason to believe that it is near. I do think that they are already severely weakened. They are severely weakened in the respect that much of the control over a lot of the institutions, like the media, military institutions, governments like the Senate and the Congress in America, none of that's new. But what is new is that it's being exposed in the way that it is, in such a public fashion. That's new. And that weakens them because it forces them to operate in the open. Public opinion is very much against Israel. Don't be fooled by certain world leaders getting up there and defending Israel. But the reality of the situation is that the people, the common people, they're not with this genocide. They don't think this genocide is a good idea. But so it's thrown Israel into a weird space. And Yahya Sinwar, Allah yarhamuhu, That's one of the fruits of the attacks that went about that took place back in October 7th of 2023 when they attacked occupiers. They attacked occupiers. I did not say that they attacked innocent people. Why did I not say that? Because, first of all, you decided to throw a concert. Hello? You threw a concert on occupied territory right next to the Gaza Strip where everybody can look and see what's going on. They're in an open air prison, and you decided to throw a concert right next door. Why did you throw the concert right next door? Because you were taunting them. That's exactly what you were doing. You could have thrown it in Tel Aviv, or you could have thrown it someplace else, not saying that it would have been a good idea out there anyway. But the reality of the situation is that you picked to do it right next to the fence that's fencing in prisoners. And it didn't work out. And then, hey, look, you can put on all the makeup and all of look, these poor girls, and they just went to a concert. That's what they were doing. And then the bad Hamas went and attacked them. Well, brother, let me tell you something. If you're going to throw a concert right next to a prison camp, you better bring a stick with you. That's just real. That's just how it goes. As for attacking those different settlements and such like that were just outside of the Gaza Strip, these are occupiers. And as for some of the children were affected by the attack there. Well, who brought the kids there? Hamas didn't tell you to bring your children while you occupy our land. You decided to do that all on your own, and you got your butt kicked for it. And now you want to come back and say, oh, look, they attacked children. Marco Rubio in his nice suit, he gets up on TV and he's saying, look what Hamas has done to people that were just going to a concert. Yeah, well, it's mandatory military service for those over the age of 18. So they were all of combat status. It's mandatory, male or female. So all of them, except for probably a few, were all either current soldiers or reservists. But those little nuances, Marco Rubio is not going to give it to you because it doesn't serve his agenda. Well, I don't care about Marco Rubio's agenda. I give it to you straight, inshallah. Okay, Sultan is back and he says, but those people they arrest are ISIS members, Brother Bilal. This is going back to what the problem is for HTS. Okay, all right, here's the deal. I want you to imagine Guantanamo. And people like us, we speak out against Guantanamo. No, Guantanamo's not good. No, you can't torture people in Guantanamo. No, you have to give the people their rights in Guantanamo. Isn't that right? That's what we would say. But there's some people in America who would say the exact same thing that you said, just replace it with, but those people they arrest, instead of saying ISIS members, but those people they arrest are terrorists, Brother Bilal. Do we stand up for justice or not? That's all there is. It's either we do or we don't. Not we do for some people that we like. Hey, man, you cool. I'm going to back you. But you, I don't know. No, that's not justice. If they are ISIS members, put them in front of a judge and prove it in court. Not to beat the heck out of people until they confess, and then comes the punishment. No, brother, that is not what this revolution has been all about. That is not what Islam is all about. We've got to be true to our principles. We've got to be true to who we are as people. Therefore, if you arrest somebody and you charge them with being an ISIS member, brother, put him in front of a judge, bring your evidence, let the judge convict him, and then, as my mother said, put him under the jail. I don't have a problem with that. But what I do have a problem with is just saying that, well, there's some people who can have justice and due process and some people that can't. No, that's not who we are as Muslims. That's not what the revolution was all about. And Allah knows best. But Jazakallah khair for the question. All right, next up, we've got here Brown Eagle, who says two questions. What is the policy of the Syrian government towards Israel, Israeli escalation on Syrian land, and what is the future of the Mujahideen in Idlib prisons? The best I can answer in terms of the first one is that Abu Muhammad Jolani, Ahmed Shara, has been quite quiet regarding the presence of Israeli forces in Syria. I understand why he's like that. Doesn't necessarily mean that I agree with it, but then again, I'm not the president. And he is. But I understand that because militarily, they may not have an answer for the Israelis at this time. And to get into a rhetorical war with them serves no benefit. I don't necessarily agree with that strategy, but I can understand why he might employ it. And Allah knows best. At the end of the day, the takeover of most, not even all of the country, only happened back in December. So we're going back, just 3 months ago. Mujahideen forces just may not be ready for a confrontation at this particular time with the Israeli forces. But the reality of the situation is that it's going to come. Allah knows best, but it's going to come. I don't see any other solution here. The Israelis are not going to stop. The brothers are not going to allow that this country is going to be annexed for any reason that Netanyahu or whoever comes after him might bring to the table is going to be irrelevant. So more than likely, conflict is going to be here in this region for a while, and Allah knows best. Question, what is the future of the Mujahideen in Idlib prisons? You mean like Abu Shu'aib Misri? You mean like Abu Yahya Jazairi and a host of others? I don't know, brother. I really wish I did. I really wish I did. And that's why I was asked last night, I was basically told I should be grateful for HTS and I should basically be quiet. I'm grateful for all of the brothers, and that includes brothers from HTS who helped to open this country. And it wasn't just them, but I'm grateful for all of them. I really am. But also at the same time, my gratefulness is not a purchase for being quiet when people are indefinitely detained. I'm not with that movement. I can't pretend that I'm with that movement because I'm not. And I got to be crystal clear with everybody. These brothers don't deserve that. And if they do deserve it, it hasn't been made clear to the people what that's all about. I am in contact with a lot of different people, and I know a lot about their cases and such like that. And I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, there's some injustice going on here. Now, if we want the help of Allah so we can kick out those pesky Israelis and get rid of all of the other no-goodniks that want to undermine this Islamic revolution, we're going to need the help of Allah. We're not going to get it by these types of behaviors, and Allah knows best. Okay. Well, let's see. There's a question here. What's your thoughts on Israel's curse of the 8th decade? I don't know what that is. I'm just being honest. I don't know what the curse of the 8th decade is. Maybe somebody could, enlighten us. Yeah, but I'm not sure what that's about. Next question. Art Ford says, what do you think the new Syrian government can do to stop the Israeli expansion? Do you think Israel will wage war? Yes, I do think Israel will wage war. And we're going to have to fight them eventually anyway. So I hope that the brothers in Damascus are drawing up plans. I do know that most of the military people have resolved themselves to the idea that they will be fighting Israeli forces in the very near future. So that's not hidden to anybody. I am not a military analyst or a general or anything like that. So I couldn't tell you what would be the best strategy. But I do know that taking on the Israelis is something that, in my opinion, and Allah knows best, is inevitable. Okay, we've got Shazam Rahman. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All right, let's see. I'll try to do a bit of a rapid fire here. Brother, do you think if Pakistan get a better government and the army are not corrupt, could be a big player for assist Hamas in better term for helping them instead of Iran? Oh, absolutely, Yahi. And you know, look, for people who actually want to work for the sake of Allah and for the Ummah, you know, there are plenty of opportunities. So, Bismillah. But also at the same time, they get a better government and the army is not corrupt. Well, yeah, it sounds good, you know, but it looks like a tall order right now because the government is corrupt and so is the army. So, yeah, and Allah knows best. All right, let's see. Will we take one more? Waqar Salim says, what is the situation of the oppressed, tortured, transgressed against, spied on, falsely accused Muslims and non-Muslim minorities at the current moment in Syria from what you know on the ground? I don't want to be unfair to anybody because things are new. There are allies of the government, which some of them, which are also within the government, who are doing things that they shouldn't be doing. So I'm not going to try to defend it. I'm not. But also at the same time, this is a work in progress, and we have to look at it a bit from a developer's mentality, which does not mean that we should be silent about the abuses that take place either on Muslims or on non-Muslims, because that's simply not who we are as Muslims or as revolutionary forces. So we shouldn't be silent on that. We've got to understand that there's some knuckleheads out there in the ranks, and we're going to have to clean them out, and we have to hold them accountable for the actions in which they took place. And Allah knows best. And we're going to basically leave it there, brothers and sisters. But before I go, I just want to one more time just mention, guys, take a look at our project that we're working on. It's called Voices of Truth. We're documenting the abuses that took place under the Assad regime. We have got to get these stories out there, and we need your help. Take a look at our crowdfunding page. It's called, it's on medina.com/voices of truth, medina.com/voices of truth. I am your host, Bilal Abdul Kareem, and I'll be seeing you, inshallah ta'ala, tomorrow night. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi